What's going on? This is Marcus here at Living.Fit. Take two with this Living.Fit podcast. So one of my favorites here, Tony Blauer. How are you doing today?
I'm good, man. It's incredibly hot. I mean, we're neighbors. It's crazy.
I'm sweating.
It's crazy that we're doing this on Zoom because I feel like I could throw a football to you.
You know, it's funny. I literally have been in Carlsbad 3 times in the last couple of weeks. So, dude.
Yeah. So anyways, no, it's we've been trying to do this for months. So we were forced to do it by Zoom because our schedules never intersected for a live thing. But I'm excited to be here. How you been, man?
Dude, it's been fantastic. And, like we were talking about before, just transitioning into this kind of online world, which has its downsides, but definitely has its perks in being able to reach people that you never would be able to, or at least, a little bit quicker than you normally would be able to. So, trying to make do.
Yeah, that's a crazy thing because on a regular basis, I'm training hundreds of people around the world who could never. I mean, we have a bunch of clients in Australia who train with us every week in the tactical fitness and self-defense stuff, as you can see from the creepy guys behind me. And under the normal circumstances, if you lived in Australia, you couldn't train with me. Like, what are you going to do? Like, fly in, do a class, fly back, fly in, given what's going on there now. So holy moly. But yeah, the upside, just to hijack this for a second, is you can get access to experts like yourself like this because of live and or recorded stuff where, I mean, like, I think that aspect of the internet was kind of like realized in the last couple of years where, you're like, I don't really want to go to the gym and work out with people right now or touch people or be near anybody. And, so I don't know. I don't want this to be a dark call, but the like being able to be online, this is, after about 6 months in, Marcus, I was like, shit, why didn't we do this before the pandemic? Because it just opened our doors to so many more people that geography and finances couldn't ever get them to a class.
No, absolutely. And what I find interesting is just going through your stuff online and been going through your stuff for a long time. I'm interested to see how you were able to transition because you are a very literally hands-on type of person. For those of you who don't know what Tony does, he has a tactical system. He's been training in martial arts since I believe you're 13 or 14. You first took Taekwondo. You started your tactical training systems back in '85. I mean, you've been around this game for a very, very long time. So you really have no excuse for not turning it online. You should have done that a long time ago. But
yeah, it was crazy. We did it. So one of the divisions of my company is we train trainers. So people who are martial artists that want to incorporate our type of research and our method. So we were using like WebEx and Cisco products and I never liked Skype, but we were doing that like before Zoom was even a company. We were doing online training, but it was internal. So it just having like a subscription service or monthly, weekly, or webinars. I was just too busy with our other stuff. I was telling you earlier, like when I was cutting my teeth and growing the company. I mean, my peak year, I think, was on the road 260 plus days. It was like a deployment. So we're doing courses all over the place. When I came back, I didn't want to get online. And if I was, just the recharge and recalibrating my brain, I didn't want something else. So now it's been over a year and a half. We have this last Friday's class was Thursday's class was 290 consecutive classes that are recorded like a I don't have anything to do with Netflix, but like the Netflix of my self-defense is up there on Vimeo Cloud, right? Where, I couldn't believe it. If you had told me, you're going to record 290 classes for this, masterclass in personal survival, I'd be like, okay, that sounds like I'm not doing that. Thanks. But here we are, just haven't stopped.
No, that's awesome. To be able to have that kind of resource and to be able to offer that to people as a resource is huge because right now, what do you have? You either in-person events, which isn't really happening, or you have just a conglomeration of crappy YouTube videos where you don't know what's right or wrong, and you can look through the comments and try to decipher. But to have a resource from someone like yourself on there, I think that's freaking phenomenal.
Thanks, man. Well, here's the other thing: is it's a journey. So for a lot of people, they want that quick fix. It's like, how long will it take me to be able to do this? And a lot of people will give the bullshit answer, and it's almost like, somebody calling you up and saying, Marcus, how long till I get in shape? And I got to lose 30 pounds. I go, well, are you going to actually learn nutrition and follow the guidance and retest what's working? Because it's not the same for everybody. And are you actually going to do the workouts? It's the same thing in self-defense. How long till I'll be able to stop a guy who does this? Or what if somebody's bigger? What if I get the most amazing questions, and they're all legit questions, and they all, you peel the onion back, they all come down to just people understanding how to manage their fear. And, I'm sure we'll get into that after, because that's my favorite topic. But the thing about having, because we do live and we record everything. So whatever time zone somebody's in, or whatever their schedule is, they can go binge on stuff. But instead of it being like, here's a 45-minute class on knife defense, this is like a journey of mindset, of tactical fitness, of understanding how to improve situational awareness. It's turned into something that I'm really, really proud of. And it went from filming initial classes, like with a phone, going, this is ridiculous, to then trying it with an iPad. This is ridiculous. And eventually, we've got an expensive camera now and a good mic. And it's great. And it's one thing I tell people, they go, oh, I don't want to do Zoom. I go, listen, if you, we did a combatives camp in Florida. We've been doing them for 15 years. We missed last year. We just did one in July in Orlando. And it was a nice turnout given the environment in the world. There was, 63 people. We usually have around 100 at this event. And, I explained to everybody, I said, you can train with me. Like, if I had a martial arts school down the street from you, would you sign up? And they're like, yeah. And I go, but you flew to Florida, you got a hotel room, you paid for the class, and you're in a class that has 62 other people, which isn't like a really good one-to-one student-teacher ratio. It's an exciting event, but in 16 hours, 2 days, 8 hours, it's done. And you're like, wow. And there's excitement and adrenaline from it, but there's no sustainment. There's no longevity to that. And so I tell people, like this thing here, it's like I said to you earlier, if we could go back in time, and you and I know what we know about online training now, and I know you were doing this stuff before, but anyone who did not lose their minds or their business got really, really good at online training, because it was the only way to survive. But if we could go back in time and there was no lockdown, no COVID, and I know what I knew now, I'd be telling my team right away, dude, I need 4 new websites. We got to start a garage gym program. I'm going to be teaching, and here's a weird, nice serendipity, and you'll appreciate this. And again, I don't know all the demographics of your audience. So hi, everybody. Nice to meet you. But I'm 61 years old. I started wrestling when I was 6 or 7 years old. I was fascinated with fighting at 5, 6 years old. 1966, glued to the TV, watching Bruce Lee and the Green Hornet, watching James West and Wild Wild West, glued to the TV. In fact, the house could be on fire. Tony, the house on fire, run out. If there was a fight scene on TV, I was like, there was something about it. I was, the best way to describe this, I was obsessed with fear, but I didn't understand it at a young age. Meaning, I was a really good athlete. I was very outgoing, but I was scared of how I was going to do all the time. So if I was up at bat, I was never going, I'm going to hit the home run and save the game, for the team. I was like, don't strike out, don't strike out. Oh, fuck, please don't, God, don't strike out. I was a very highly regarded skier, grew up on skis. I'd be in skiing in practice. People are like, holy shit, look at Tony. Came time for the race. I'm like, is it okay if I projectile vomit on everybody? I'm like, I was so nervous, man. And I couldn't reconcile the question. And when I turned all of these feelings into our No Fear seminar, I should have worn the shirt, but No Fear is spelled KNOW. It was this idea, if I'm so good, why am I so scared? I don't feel good. Like if I was good, why do I feel so emotionally, psychologically off balance, self-conscious about how I'm going to do it? It wasn't imposter syndrome. I don't even like the term. I didn't feel like I didn't belong there. I was like, there was a part of me that went, I'm the best on the team, right? I'm the team leader. I wasn't picked last in sports, but I always was overwhelmed with the fear. And so I got jumped when I was 12, told my father, he put me into a taekwondo. There was only one school near us, taekwondo. And I thought that was going to save me. And so the journey, I started saying, like, I don't know what your demographic is and everything, but when I was 15 years old, I'm sitting on the floor staring at Bruce Lee magazines. My mom comes by and says, hey, what are you going to be when you grow up? Are you going to you're going to be a lawyer, doctor, astronaut? Those are the choices you had in the 70s. I think you could be a vet, but it wasn't like in our middle class, it was like some professional occupation or family business. My dad was in the clothing business. His father was in it. So it was part of the Blauer name. We were in the clothing business in Montreal. And she says, are you going to go to work in the family business? And I looked at her and I said, Mom, school's not going to be that important to me because I'm going to be a famous martial artist like Bruce Lee and invent my own self-defense system. Like I was just like totally fantasizing, right? And it's funny, she's in her 80s now. And we were talking about this like last month, Marcus. I'm like, we were talking, I go, Mom, do you remember that? And she goes, oh my God, I do remember that. And she laughed. She says, I still don't know what you do, but I'm extremely proud of you. So it's pretty funny. But why is this story significant? And first of all, it was a really quick origin story, right? Got into martial arts, hoping that not because I was like a knuckle dragger getting into fights. I abhorred violence so much that, and then I realized years later why I was so fascinated watching fighting as a kid, because in the 60s, the stylized fighting was the guys that were the better fighters always won the TV show. Right. They were the hero. So I wanted to be, the maxim, be the hero in your life. Right. I wanted to be the hero. I wanted to not be afraid. I made this very immature, not in the traditional sense, but as a 6-year-old connection that fighting equals power equals confidence. That wasn't the case as I studied. If I had a confrontation, if I had to public speak, if I had to compete, the fear didn't go away. So I was like really confused. Then 16, 17, 18, you're getting into little skirmishes and a fight and a road rage incident with somebody. And I'm like, holy shit, I'm still scared shitless. And I'm a really good martial artist now. I'm like, what the fuck's going on? And in 1980, I got asked by a good friend of my dad's to teach his 15-year-old son. I was 20 years old. To teach him because he was having a bully issue. So I started teaching him. Then his brother wanted to learn. And then Derek and Richard across the street wanted to learn. And they were from a nice area. Literally, I'm working 40 hours a week for my dad in the shipping department. And within a month, I had 30 private students. And I would teach them in garages because I didn't have a school. And I did that for 5 years. And so the whole point of this, and just, I apologize to everyone for the little detour and rant, was this. 2 years ago, when it was like, hey, 2 weeks to flatten the curve, I almost lost my business. I mean, all my business was training law enforcement, military, it all stopped. And then one day, I don't know if you know Steve Weatherford. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I'm talking to Steve and I go, dude, I'm going to lose my entire business. I won't be able to feed my family. I'm going to lose my house. He goes, what are you talking about? I go, I just had to cancel 30 classes. I mean, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars just stopped. So it's like the water came off and you're going, hey, we have no water. We'll turn the faucet on. No, there's like no water. And I said, I don't know what to fucking do. And he says, like, aren't you a famous like self-defense instructor? And I'm like, yeah. He goes, well, he says, I have 150 people who train with me every day online in my garage. He says, why don't you do something out of your garage? And I was like, literally got off the phone, recorded a video to my audience saying, look, here's where I'm at, totally transparent. If you've always wanted to train with me, now's a chance. And I had 100 people sign up like in 3 days.
And which program was this? This was the
this was our garage gym, like just live training with me. And I had no idea what I was going to do. And here's a really funny thing. So I just called it the garage gym, which is a name that I love and hate because it's like, just sounds like, oh, what do you mean you're training in your garage? Because we're doing life-changing shit, right? Tactical fitness and mindset, situation awareness, fear management, interactive, live, 5 days a week. Still doing it. My wife says to me, she goes, why don't you get someone else to do it or cut back the days? And I was like I dropped 17 pounds. I remember when we first met, the pain I was in, a neck pain, back pain, a stenosis in the back, my neck injury. I mean, I couldn't even do 2 push-ups in a row when I started because of nerve pain in my body, and I'm up like probably banged out 30, 40, before things are like, okay, you need to back off. But I'm 61, like I'm kicking again, I'm moving again. And it says a lot for like what you do and what other people do is like, you got to stay moving. You got to keep moving. And, but the serendipity of all of this is when I left my father's company to really dive into my dream, I was doing garage gym training full time for years until I opened my first school for 5 years. And here I saved my company and my family going back into the garage.
And being able to help so many freaking people.
Dude, the first day of class, I'm walking around the house like this. I'm like, and what Jessie says to me, she goes, are you okay? I go, man, I got anxiety for like, she goes like, what? For about what? I said, it's the first class. I'm freaking nervous. She goes, nurses, you've been teaching for 42 years at a time. You're the best spear system instructor in the world. You do this in your sleep. How could you possibly be nervous? And I said, I'm not a nerd. And this is an interesting thing just to shift gears and talk about fear and psychology. When you change your relationship with fear, you change your life. But most people don't know the kind of almost intuitive formula to how to look at fear in a way that you can study and go, oh, okay, I see what I was doing there. The event can be real and cause the fear. So what I said to her, I said, I'm not afraid of teaching. And I'm not afraid of anybody online. What I'm afraid for is what this means to me and us. This needs to work because this is going to save the company and our family. And if you don't have anxiety over that like level of pressure, then you just don't care, right? But it was my ability. So immediately when I said I got anxiety, she immediately thought it was about teaching or the lesson plan or the technology or whatever. It was the 31,000 foot view, not even the 30,000 foot view. It was like, I don't think they ever knew. When the day I did the math, I went, okay, we just canceled 30 law enforcement training sessions at do the math, $10,000 to $20,000 per course, plus residual, plus high gear. Okay, that's not sustainable for a small business.
No.
And so I hid that type of fear and pressure from the family.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting thing as an entrepreneur. If anyone listening here runs your own business and you got your family, like it doesn't help if they see you scared, like so.
It's like the old adage, when you're on a plane, it's like you definitely don't want to see the flight attendant or the captain of that plane scared. Right. Everybody looks at the flight attendant. If they're scared, I guarantee you I'm going to be shitting my pants. So you were able to turn that into, and let's go back onto fear, because that was most of the notes that I wrote about this was just based off of the post you've made, the material that you put out online about fear, the person's relationship with fear, and how that will literally save their life. So you say you got obsessed with fear. Where did that kind of take you?
So when I started teaching scenario-based self-defense, so first of all, let me just qualify what I do. I've spent decades studying the neurobiology of fear and the impact it has on our psychological or cognitive systems, but also on our physiological systems. Now, what I just said in that last sentence, I couldn't say a few years ago, and would never have thought to say it 10 years ago, certainly didn't say it in the 80s. The neuroscience of neuroscience didn't even exist like 20, 30 years ago. It's it's really a new, myelinating a neuron, and the myelin sheath and signal speed and understanding networks and circuits in the brain and how you learn. And that's all like 10 years old as far as like people being able to go, these are the steps. I was organically and intuitively experimenting with all of that in the 80s. I didn't know it, but I could see results, and I just trusted my gut. So we were doing brain-based training versus block-based training in the 80s. We were using Socratic drilling that inspired critical thinking and adaptation in our students. We wouldn't say, no, I'll put this down. No, when he kicks you, you block like this. And we weren't doing that type of staged movement. It was very, very spontaneous. It was like a real incubator period. In fact, I call the 80s my incubator period, because out of that emerged a program that we ended up calling the neural circuitry of fear, called psychobehavior. That became the inner workings of the No Fear program. Being able to differentiate between the psychology of fear and what everyone else loves to just talk about is the physiology and the biology of fear. Fear is an emotion. It's when you're blah, 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 blah. It's fight or flight or freeze. And all of that, it's simultaneously relevant and irrelevant. Why do I say irrelevant? Because if you're afraid of public speaking, having somebody go whisper in your ear, that's fight, flight, or freeze. Like you're just in a, you're in a sympathetic state. You need to breathe, do some box breathe. Like it may or may not work, but it's not helping you understand what's going on. If somebody's chasing you and you're running away, they go flight. If somebody attacks you and you fight back and you're improvising, they go, fight. If you give up and, lie down, freeze. None of that's relevant if we can step back and go, what is the safest thing we need to do now? What is the smartest thing we need to do? So when I was really developing a scenario-based approach to self-defense, because I was a very passionate coach, I had taught tennis and skiing at a very young age. I liked helping people. So becoming a self-defense coach, I think why that became my obsession, not my passion, my obsession, was because I was hoping that along the way I would discover how to solve my own problems with fear for myself. And I did that by intuitively figuring it out. Like I was giving, if you were one of my students, I'm coaching you through stuff, and I'd see your eyes see you light up. And then I'm watching my students perform at a level where I'm going, man, I wonder if I could do that. Like they were managing their fear. And they were doing it in the self-defense realm. And out of that period evolved the No Fear, but a couple of lines that I didn't say them as succinctly or eloquently back in the 80s when I was in my 20s. But one of them is the people who managed their fear managed to fight. So that was became a staple of the system, is like, if you don't manage your fear, you're certainly not going to fight. We saw that in the last 2 years, people giving up, closing down, giving up emotionally, psychologically, because they're not fighting. fighting doesn't guarantee victory. I just want to put that caveat in there, but at least it guarantees you're in the fight, and you have no chance unless you're in the fight. The other line that emerged out of that program is you can't be brave if you're not afraid. And this is this reframe. That's one of my favorite lines out of the No Fear program now, because a lot of us either because of lack of education, well, there isn't any really good education. Most people don't associate fear as a spiritual guide or a positive moment. Like, you get a fear spike and you start to sweat and your palms are sweating and you got butterflies in your stomach. Nobody goes, oh, I love that feeling. Nobody has like 2 great days and goes, man, I hope something crazy happens today that puts me in the fear loop because I love, chaos and right. So I realized that there was something huge there. Didn't realize how big it was, but that incubator period developed my high gear, which is our force on force training suit. But also by doing scenario-based training in the most realistic and responsible way, we discovered the startle flinch. And that's this moment of we've all flinched. Everyone watching this call is turned and there's a spider here and going, yeah, right. And or someone goes, look out, and your hands come up, or you're getting something out of a closet off a shelf and a box falls down and your hands go up. The startle flinch I turned into an organic airbag for personal safety, where you're there trying to talk somebody down and they move on you. And instead of covering and turning away, we figured a way through just classical conditioning to take the cross extensor reflex, which is this disengaging reflex of the body that makes us small, protects our head, and then pushes away the threat, and figured out a way to, I love the term, weaponize the startle flinch. So all of that became this like 3-dimensional. We do scenarios. We learn how to use the body in its most natural, instinctive form. And we understood the psychological mechanisms and created, the most holistic, behaviorally based approach to personal safety there is. Out of that, over and over again, what kept coming back was people get really good at the movements. We don't do this. I don't know why I did that, but whatever the martial stuff. And those are the complex motor skills. And the more I delved into the neuroscience, the fear, the neurobiology of fear, I came across that what was a consistent thread is if a stimulus gets introduced too quickly, our body's default response is at a physiological reactive brain level. So your situational awareness and mine and everyone watching this video is your situational awareness is a conscious cognitive skill. You got to be conscious. You can't be asleep to have situational awareness. And that's a metaphor and that's literal. It's a cognitive skill. You got to know what to look for. If nobody tells you like these are anomalies, look for this, then what are you looking for? But everyone, if you got a little bit of training, will do something like this. I'm a security detail and you're the team leader and I'm here and you go, and you're from the command post, you go, hey, Blauer, check in. And I go, what is it, boss? While I'm doing that, I'm not looking at shit, right? So right now I'm compromised. What is it? Yes, I'll send you my coordinates. Like I'm making fun of making a cartoony, but you can't have like nonstop 24/7 situational awareness. And as a human, we get distracted by things. And so what I discovered was that when good guys were surprised, because we've got body cam, dash cam, CCTV of law enforcement, military operators being jumped, ambushed, surprised. And these are people who hunt bad people. And they're moving the way a beginner in my class would move. So I made that observation. I said, the only way they get back in the fight is by weaponizing the startle flinch. And the only way you truly recalibrate quickly is by understanding and managing fear. And so that became the connection for decades that if you wanted to do something, you needed to manage your fear. And I just, so I've been studying violence, fear, and aggression for 43 years now. And slowly and steadily, I would get like feedback, like this guy training with me sends me a letter 10 years later. And this is only online training through video, audio. Hey, I'm paraphrasing. He goes, hey, I want to thank you for helping me raise my kids. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? He goes, yeah, I introduced them to your cerebral self-defense audio tape. And they're all grown up and they're doing amazing. And the way they look at challenges and fear versus their peers, it's unbelievable. And I was thinking about that. And yeah, me and my wife, we raised our kids well, we're smart people, but it's the fear part that changed their trajectory. And I got goosebumps. I got goosebumps, man.
Bro, normally I'm saying things. I could just let you talk all day. Like, this is so insanely, incredibly informational, but just inspiring, because you think about how many people take fear. And like you said, they don't embrace fear. They don't look at fear as a
move away from it.
Really, yeah, it was like, no, get the hell away from me. But the fact that you're able to not only, turn it to your advantage, even weaponize it, but make someone so aware of it that they won't be afraid. I mean, like you said, not that they won't be afraid, but they aren't going to let that hold them back, whether it's in a survival situation or even just you're about to go speak. So the implications of someone being able to just become superhuman.
Well, this is, yeah. So yeah, I mean, you're right on point, man. I started getting over the years, but I was so obsessed with the combatives part that I'd answer the email and thank them. Thank you. But then I was like, last year, I get an email from an emergency room doctor, emails me, can't mention his name, and I can't mention where he lives or works, but he says to me, I had a panic attack and hid in a closet in the hospital. And it was your no fear program that got me out of there. I started referring back to it and got myself, and it was just overwhelmed from all the COVID shit and everything.
Yeah.
There was a period when it first hit where, like, I don't want to get into what's going on now, but when it first hit, but it was amazing. Like, it wasn't like, yeah, somebody attacked me in the hospital, so I fucking hit him with your spear system. It was your no fear program helped me reclaim my fucking life. I had so what you need to understand is this, like, I got a guy now, Jeff DeTesso, been a psychologist for 20 years. He is a Krav Maga expert who teaches Krav Maga in Connecticut. He comes to one of my trainings. This is like several years ago in Vegas, one of our instructor courses. I don't know what he does because I meet him as a Krav Maga instructor. And I guess the messaging here is that I've got all these people who I meet because they want to learn my martial arts. And then they'll email me. So Jeff contacts me. He says, hey, I never told you this, but my focus in my practice, one of the things that I'm very passionate about is helping vets who are dealing and suffering with PTSD. And he said, I got to tell you, and this is verbatim. It's now this sentence is now on my website, on my Coach Blauer website. He says, your approach to fear management is more effective than anything I've learned in 20 years of psychology.
Jeez.
And when I heard that, the entrepreneur in me goes, can you do you mean that? Can I put that on my website? He says, fuck yeah, it's true. So again, goosebumps, man. But like, that wasn't my intention setting out. Like, it was never to be rich. It was never to be famous. When I was 15, I was yelling to be famous like Bruce Lee. But what I was saying was, like, there was something in his journey that spoke to me of figuring out something that would help people. When I was 20, I was asked by venture capitalists what I want to do. And I said, I want to make the world safer. Right. And that's just been my focus for decades, is how do I make people safer? But out of that, I get this mom named Amy. She wants to learn self-defense. She came to my Be Your Own Bodyguard course. Then she came to our trainer course. And she's not sending me an email saying, hey, one of the ladies that I taught almost got raped. And it was like, one of my kids is really afraid of swimming, and I used your fear management program to help him overcome his fear of swimming. Thank you so much. And so I'm getting these like
It's interesting. What it sounds like is kind of the reason that parents put their kids into martial arts. They're not looking to get them better at martial arts. They're looking to give them the discipline. They're looking to get them some structure, something that's going to help them outside of life. And, in your pursuit to help people get better at self-defense, the same thing. It's like other things have benefited from, or they benefited in other ways from it.
So here's an interesting thing. Let's think about the timeline of violence for a moment. Every victim of violence who lived to tell the tale said they had a bad feeling before the attack. So the first place you're attacked is your intuitive system. And if you feel like you're in danger, what do? You get a fear spike. So when we think about this, the first opponent is your fear spike, not the attacker. That fear spike happens at 10 feet out or 3 feet out or whatever in this metaphor. So when you think about that, and this comes back to what I said 15 minutes ago. If you can't manage your fear, you're not going to manage the fight. And that goes on in sports. That goes on in business. But think about this. How many people on this call have a fear of public speaking? Probably
most.
Well, this, like the number one fear in the world isn't getting dragged to a secondary crime scene and murdered. The number one fear in the world is public speaking, right? So, you might have a bunch of people on this call that are like you. They can get up on stage. I'm comfortable talking, but I coach a lot of people on, and this is another thing. People sometimes hire me and they want me to fix them, right? Just like somebody hires you. Hey, fix my bad shoulder. That's not how it works. I remember, I don't know if you know Eric Goodman from Foundation Training, probably a good guy to have on your podcast. So he developed this program. I call it tactical yoga. I don't know if he likes that term, but it's this self-tractioning system that you do with these body postures and breathing. And you're not moving, you're moving very, very slowly. And the stenosis in my back and the inflammation I had was so bad that I couldn't even walk 50 feet 3 years ago without squatting to floss the nerves because the pain was so bad. It was insane. Couldn't run. My fingertips would go numb. I'm trying everything. Nothing's working. I meet this guy, Eric Goodman, Foundation. About a year of doing the work as a lazy athlete. I'm so lazy. Like when it comes to that sort of stuff, I'm starting to move and walk better. Then one day I'm on my walk and I realize I'm kind of walking like Conor McGregor. I'm like, I got a little bit of this, wow, swagger. And I see, and I haven't run at this point now, it's almost 2 years, I haven't run. And I see a sign, like a road sign. And I just say to myself, I wonder if I can run to that without this pinching and having to stop. And fear, and this is so important. Here I am, a fear management expert. I'm terrified because the pain I had would literally make me squat down and stop while the nerves just relaxed. So I'm scared. I go, don't do it. You're not ready. I go, but then my intuition, this is a neat thing also. A byproduct of really studying fear is it augments your intuition and it changes your self-awareness. And self-awareness is the key to everything. You want to self-actualize, you need self-awareness. You want to be a good critical thinker, objective, you need self-awareness. If you don't have self-awareness, you don't understand what your bias is or your prejudice or your whatever. So I say to myself, you wouldn't have thought to run those 50 yards to that street sign if your intuition wasn't trying to guide you. So I'm having this really metaphysical conversation with myself on this walk. And I go, just start running. And if it hurts, you can stop like you always did. And I start to run and I'm looking for the pain. And I catch myself, don't look for the pain, just focus on the run. Look where you're going. Don't look behind you. I'm going to start crying here. I get there, dude. I hit that. I literally started crying on the run because I was able to run. It wasn't great. I wasn't graceful, but it was like my intuition and my fear management and the training. I called up Eric, dude, I fucking ran today. We're screaming on the phone. We become good friends. I'm so excited for you. And I say to him, and I want everyone listening to this, Okay, listen to this conversation. This is how fucking moronic humans are. I'll speak for the entire race. I'll generalize. I say to him, I go, Eric, I think your system is fixing my back. He goes, it sounds like it. I go, I'm so excited. I go, hey, how much longer will I have to do this? Like once I get to this level? And he pauses and he says, for the rest of your life. Right?
Until it stops working.
Right. But it was like so funny. It's like, hey, Marcus, you've helped me lose 20 pounds and I now have my beach body back. Thank you so much. I'm stopping training with you now because this is what I wanted to achieve. And you're going, no, you understand. You need to do whatever you're doing to get there. You need to do for the rest of your life. If you want to stay moving and looking good and lean and active and energetic, it's funny, isn't that?
Well, we like to compartmentalize and put time frames on things, and for whatever reason, since we're always looking for the next thing, it's like we have this thing that's working. How many times do we break something that literally or try to fix something that isn't broken?
Yeah, I brushed my teeth. Do I have to do it again tomorrow?
Yeah, I brushed my teeth today, and yes, I'm good. I don't have to do that.
Right. So anyways, like I mean, the thing about it, I don't know how I got onto that, but the whole fear management thing. Just, it's so profound, but I didn't realize how big it was. And what I was trying to say, and somehow that story hijacked me, was people call me up and they go, I got this fear of this, and they want those, that's what it was. They want the 3 things. They want the listicle. Give me 10 things to fix that. And so I started to use public speaking as an example, and I'll coach everyone on your call public speaking for free right now. It's like people say to me, I'm afraid of public speaking. I heard you're a fear management expert. Can you help me? I go, yeah. I go, like, tell me a little bit about yourself. They go, well, I was born in the woods. I was raised by wolves. I was, whatever the fuck their story is. Right. And then I get them talking. I go, tell me a little bit. What's your favorite color? What's your favorite sport? We're talking, we're dialoguing back and forth. And I go, why do you think you have a fear of public speaking? And they go, well, I freak out every time I go, okay, so you don't seem to be freaking out right now. You're talking perfectly. And they go, well, you're not like, this isn't public speaking. I go, yeah, it is. You're in public and you're speaking to me. And they look at me and they're like, no. I go, so understand this. You have an eye. You have eyes, you have a brain, you have mouth, you can talk, you can articulate. So let's go through the checklist. What do I need to be able to publicly speak? You can publicly speak. You understand how to put words together. You understand how to write. You understand how to think. You've got ideas. We just talked for 20 minutes. Part of that was for me to make sure that you had all of these skills, right? And it's almost like somebody saying, I can't do kettlebells, which is, I know your favorite thing. You do all sorts of stuff, but kettlebell. And you look at them and they go, can they grip a kettlebell? Do they have hands and arms? Right? If they do, they can do certain things with the kettlebell, right? So when someone says, I can't do that, what they haven't done is learn how to look at their fear and identify what is it that's holding them back? Why do they have this erroneous belief? And so in the public speaking hypothetical scenario, it's getting somebody to realize that they're afraid of an outcome that hasn't happened yet at an event they haven't taught at yet or spoke at yet. In other words, you still got to get there in this timeline. If I say to you, you're afraid of public speaking, have you ever made a toast to some friends at a birthday party? Or are you too scared? They go, no, I can do that. Okay. So when does this become an issue? And what we're doing is we're going, when it's not a captive audience, when it's people I don't know, or when, like, I had anxiety before my first class because I had assigned a value and an outcome in advance of the event. But the fact that I had the self-awareness to know exactly what I was nervous about, I could take a deep breath and then go focus and just be there for them 100%. So there's an acronym I love to use called, it's the acronym for FEAR, FEAR, false expectations appearing real. It's when you're visualizing a future event that's debilitating you in the present. And when you cultivate the self-awareness, you understand the system to do that, you can stop and go, oh my God, I have just gotten way ahead of myself. And I've got this movie in my mind that's distracting me from what I got to do right now. And so, that's like a simple example of what we would do is help people realize that most of the time when you have any type of anxiety, non-clinical or clinical, it's because you're visualizing something that's going to happen to you, but it hasn't happened to you. And, that's pretty straightforward doctrine, but the process to do that is getting people, like I get a lot of athletes that'll say to me, I'm so scared about this event. I can't sleep. I feel like I'm going to die. And I'm like, okay, have you ever had this feeling before? Oh yeah. Before every competition, I think I'm going to die. I go, so how many times have you died before these competitions? And they're like, well, never. I go, well, okay. So but you keep saying that it happens every time and you think you're going to die. So do you realize you never die? And this has just now become the dance you have with this emotion, right? And so what we do is we just break it down so that people can just look at it and go, to get to the point, and this works, where they get to the point where they know, okay, 2 days before the event, here it happens, and they can, grab, this is a filter, they grab the fear and they go, you motherfucker, I thought you'd be here about an hour ago, right? And they just change the relationship. They go, what we're going to do is we're going to watch movies tonight. You're going to watch the movie with me. And then when people just like give into it, they fucking call me the next day. Yeah, I fell asleep really fast. I don't remember. It's because we're freaking out about it. We don't know how to look at it.
Now, building that relationship with fear, I think if there was ever a takeaway from any of this, it is that if you can learn to develop your relationship with fear, to use it to your advantage, like we said, you become unstoppable, which it seems like getting so many clients like that.
Dude, it's so much simpler. I mean, I've got people I've been training for 20 years, but on the no fear side of things, I'm not like a psychologist who says, okay, well, I'll see you next week. I'm like I got an email from a guy. He runs a podcast called The Secure Dad. That's a real cool podcast about, being a dad and making sure you and your family are safe. And we were talking about this. So he ends up getting my no fear program because we have an online version. And he sends me a message like a week later. He says, I've listened to this like 4 or 5 times already, and I've made pages of notes. And he says to me, I've never told anyone this, but I have mild anxiety. Just the way I am. He said, is it possible that it's gone from listening to your program? And I answered him. I said, well, if I was your therapist, no, because I'm still paying off my country house and I'm going to buy a boat soon. So I need you to keep coming back. No offense to therapists, because I'm friends with, like Jeff, Jeff teaches our stuff in his field, but I don't, when somebody says to me, help me fix this, I go, I'm going to teach you how to change your relationship with fear. And then you go nuts, man. like it's up to you at that point. Right. So I'm like, give people the recipe, the algorithm, you just drop, because at the end of the day, life is a roller coaster. You don't want a codependent relationship with me. You want to be independent. Right. You're going through stuff. It's a great day. Now it's not a good day. And you go, fuck, I'm scared. And you go, oh, what are you scared about? How do you break that down? Because when you identify exactly what the fear is, if you got good self-awareness, you got good critical thinking. Now you go from, as Bedros likes to say, the difference between resourceful and resourcefulness, right? You're when you're worried about the resources, you're in the fear spike. You're in the fear loop, and you get the fear spike. And the only way you can get resourceful is to get out of the fear loop. So, it's an interesting thing, man.
That is awesome. There's so many good nuggets in this. There's so much that people can take away from this. If you were to tell someone one thing that could help them in their initial starting of realizing that relationship with fear, what's one kind of thing you would tell them?
Well, I'm going to give them 2. So this is something I used to ask.
Over-delivering in so many ways.
Thank you. One of the things is a question I used to ask my fighters when I was coaching fighters. If you didn't fear fear, what would you do? Because they're about to get in the ring.
Mhm.
Dan, if you didn't, Dan was a guy who was fighting. He was get draws and losses. And he's about to fight. And I go, Dan, you're like so amazing. I said, you remind me, of like me as a skier. In practice, you're going to be on the podium today. And then you go out on the ski hill and you freaking crash because you're trying too hard. You're overthinking. So I said to him before one fight, Dan's best kick was a jump back kick. Very athletic, very high precision move, jump back kick to the face, right? I said to him, Dan, if you didn't fear fear, what would you do? I want you, don't tell me, just visualize it. I wasn't at this fight. And he called me on the phone. He was out of town. Someone else was cornering him, couldn't make it. Calls me, says, hey, coach, pre-fight jitters. I'm ready to go. I'm all wrapped up. Anything you want to ask? Anything you want to tell me, please? I go, Dan, you're amazing. If you didn't fear fear, what would you do? Don't tell me. I want you to visualize that. And then if you didn't fear fear, what would you do? Just do that. He calls me back 15 minutes later. I think like something's wrong because Dan's calling again. They started to fight. First move, jump back, kick to the head, knock the guy out. Right? Now, that doesn't happen all the time, but that's just like a really friggin' black and white example. Now, apply that, everyone listening to this, you're probably not a competitive kickboxer listening to this. You might be, but you're probably a mom or a dad, a brother, a sister, father, mother. I already said that, right? Entrepreneur. And there's all of us have shit in our lives that we're procrastinating on. So when you get a fear spike, it immediately creates self-doubt. Self-doubt always creates hesitation. Hesitation always leads to procrastination. If you don't catch it there, you're probably going to go, I'll do that later, right? And that becomes that project you never finish. Or if it's more interpersonal or something important, you fixate on it and it becomes non-clinical or clinical anxiety, and it becomes a problem in your personal development or your relationships. I can't tell you how important this shit is. And I wish, I wish that somebody had taught me this when I was 10. So the line that I want to tell people is something I said right in the beginning. You can't be brave if you're not afraid. If you want to change your life, when you feel fear about anything, speaking, business, you got to get a divorce. You want to ask somebody to marry you. You think you're going to lose your business. Someone asks you to do an investment. You think it's good, but you're scared. All of those, everything in life, you think you're being followed. There's trepidation and fear. Are you visualizing something that's not real, that's debilitating you in the present? Or are you visualizing a good strategy or an outcome? I mean, it's this intuition, we call it the 3 I's: instincts, intuition, intelligence. And it's not like, oh, here, take this supplement and you'll understand. This is a relationship you got to develop with yourself going, oh, I mean, all of us have had something happen, bad relationship, good relationship, ripped off, fucked over, almost this, and said after, fuck, I knew that was going to happen, right? We've all had, and I make this joke, it's not funny, that intuition whispers in all our ears, and our arrogance, our egos, our pride, where we are in our life shuts down. It's okay, intuition, I got this. That doesn't apply to me. And then it's like, oh, fuck, Yeah. So.
Dude, so amazing and so insightful. And there's, like I said, even just with this, there's so many good takeaways here that I'm just very excited for. I mean, it's exactly why I wanted you on here, just because I love seeing, one of the things that stuck out was your obsession, not your passion. I haven't heard that one in a while. And you can tell that this is absolutely something that just enthralls you and just motivates you, drives you, and truly you are making the world a safer place. So in order to, save your day and not make sure we're talking for hours and hours, where can we find more information about you?
If you want to learn more about what my company does, go to blauertrainingsystems.com. That's just my last name, BLAUER, trainingsystems.com. And it's a short landing page that'll show you what we do in the physical self-defense realm, our equipment company, and then the coaching I do for the No Fear program, and then the private speaking and stuff like that. And you'll see everything from there. And of course, I'm on all the social media channels. At this time, I'm pretty heavily shadow banned on Instagram. So you may not be able to find me there, or you got to look it up or type it in. And obviously, with my mission, helping people manage fear and be able to protect themselves, I'm obviously a threat to the overlords that run the world. I don't know why, but being facetious, of course.
Can't have people thinking for themselves. What are you thinking?
Exactly. Ridiculous. Yeah. So I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram and all the usual places.
Fantastic. Well, Tony, thank you so much for taking time every day to talk about this stuff. I know this is your life, and so it's so important, but still you've got a family and people to be with. So again, thank you so much for taking the time here.
Appreciate it, man. It's so good to connect again. See you soon.